My Gavan and Melonine, and well met indeed. I'm Aragorn Company, and welcome to the final episode, some 2 months after the one before it, of the DCI Last Alliance Rhovanion campaign. Will you join me as I am about to take the 18th city after having defeated Rhûn and about to win the game? And I'll tell you a little bit about why I'm jumping in at the end here. As we play through. So this is the city of Rhovanost. An invasion was called on Rhovanost, and I basically gave up the city. I just let them take it because I think that's the easiest way to deal with invasions. And so here we are having to reclaim it at the end of the campaign. Now, the story behind why it's about 20 turns since you last joined us, and I sat down this morning to record Rhovanion. I thought, I've got this week off work, I'm going to finally finish the Rhovanion campaign. I sat down knowing that we only needed 4 more regions, and we needed to defeat Rhûn. Rhûn had 2 regions themselves, so once we defeated Rhûn, we'd only need 2 more regions. And there were 2 rebel regions at Esgaroth. So there was Esgaroth, and then there's a region called Dalathales, which becomes the town of Dale. And I thought, brilliant. So I built a little army, and I sent it north to take those 2 regions. And my main army focused on defeating Rhûn. And I thought, this won't take very long. It's probably 30 minutes worth of a video. That's fantastic. Let's do it. And then, out of absolutely nowhere, and I don't think it was cheat spawned in, I just don't understand where it came from, a full stack army of Rhûn appeared in my heartlands, as far away from Rhûn's borders as possible, which I'll show you after this battle is concluded and we've got the victory screen. And so then I had to spend about 40 minutes trying to muster another army, send them back to defeat this guy, then running back to the front to actually keep pressurizing Rhûn. And then, as I say, then the next blockade was that the 2 rebel-held regions in the north, the dwarves finally decided they were going to attack and take one of them. After 40 turns of letting this rebel region exist outside their town, the dwarves finally decided to attack. So I only got 1 region in the north, and then Mordor called the invasion on this town, Rhovanost. Now, the army that Mordor sent against me was pathetic, and it actually abandoned the siege straight away. But then a Misty Mountains army came out of basically nowhere, as invasions always do, and they took the city. So what you are then seeing here is my army in the east has now defeated Rhûn after this constant back and forth, and I have some comments on that in a moment. And I am now about to take the city, and I had the army that I used to take Esgaroth came back to Rhovanost to defend it, but then when the Mordor army left, I thought, oh, we've got enough time, so I sent it south into Mordor's lands, where it captured a Mordorian region, and then the Misty Mountains came out of nowhere and took it. So we're fighting a Misty Mountain army here today, but unfortunately the Misty Mountains are possibly the least changed faction from Third Age. So looking at this, you wouldn't know we are playing DCI, because the units are all fairly similar. But I thought, rather than just me literally showing you the victory screen and then talking about my thoughts, it'd be better to at least show you the actual end of the campaign. Now, if you're wondering why I don't just upload the nearly hour-and-a-half long video of me getting to this point, it is because it is a very poor quality video. And I don't mean technically, I mean my delivery. I was so ready for the campaign to be over in 30 minutes, maybe even 20, 25 minutes. We had Rhûn by the absolute proverbials, and then this army just appeared out of nowhere. And it was just one of those things where you know when you've won a campaign, and you know that there's nothing the enemy can do to stop you winning that campaign. You've just literally got to go through the basically administrative task of actually winning it, ticking off those tick boxes. And so I was very ready to just see us through. We only needed 4 regions. It was going to be just a nice glide to the end, and I'd talk about my thoughts with DCI as we did it. But then when this army appeared out of nowhere, and then when the invasion came, and it's like, I've still won this game. This isn't going to stop me winning it. It's just annoying. So, and I don't think I delivered a very good video, and I did a grave disservice to the mod itself. So I've scrapped that. So here I am, an hour and a half later. I've taken a bit of a break. I've only about 5-10 minutes, to be honest. And I thought, no, I'm going to actually just finally win it properly, and I'll upload that video, because the other video wasn't very good. Also, the other video didn't even end with us winning, because we're about to win now. But the last video, I just got to the point where I was like, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to keep having to go backwards and forwards fighting Rhûn, whilst then having to reclaim this town. I just don't want to have to go through all of that. So I ended that video before we'd actually even won, and then I came away and I was like, no, I can't put that video up. I can't give the mod. Basically, I was just not playing. My commentary was poor, and my attitude was poor, and the video would not have been entertaining, and that's poor form. So I stopped, took a break, came back and thought, no, we're actually going to win it. We've put the work in to win it. Let's just do the bloody ending video. So here we are. This is the last town we need before we actually win the campaign. It is garrisoned by the remnants of the Misty Mountains invasion, led by this fellow who's called Yagrad, I believe. The balance bar did not think we were going to win this. It felt that it was a real 50-50, which I just think is a joke. But it's probably because the Orc bodyguards are actually not too bad in a pinch. But we will, of course, win this. I don't have any new units to show you from the last episode, although we did literally just train the first and last elite unit that we would have gotten. So the only unit I don't think you will have seen, which is called a highest spearman and highest swordman, or I think they were swordman or axeman. And I've literally just trained them this very turn, but you won't get to see them. But of course you can play in a custom battle with all of these factions in DCI and you'll be okay. So as we then do now actually close in on the end of this campaign, I think it is worthwhile ending on perhaps my thoughts of how the campaign has played out. And on the whole, I have enjoyed DCI, and it has been a sort of breath of fresh air having played DAC for so long. But there are a few points that I think I would tweak, particularly having played as Rhovanion. But I should first of all caveat that by saying I have only played about 40 minutes of the Númenórean Nation and then this campaign as Rhovanion. And that's only one campaign. And any modder in a Medieval 2 setting will tell you that all campaigns can be completely different from one to the other. So it may well be different if I played again. But on the strict terms that we've only played as Rhovanion once, and we've only played as Númenóreans once, my thought on the mod is that perhaps it is a touch too easy. And I think that is in part fueled, well, not maybe the mod is too easy, but Rhovanion has certainly been easy. And I think that is the problem which plagues most medieval mods, and that is the overpowered cavalry bodyguard generals. So our standard general, the Reikista Knight, is not in of itself a fantastic, absolutely powerhouse of a unit, but it gets 31 people, and so used in the right cavalry commanding hands, it is devastatingly strong. I think Rhovanion would be perhaps better served if their generals had a smaller unit size for the bodyguard. That would be my first port of call. And my second port of call would be to change their faction leader, Fritigern, to have a much smaller bodyguard. And indeed, maybe even dismount him. Because the cavalry game for Rhovanion has just been so simple. And we've won it entirely on the back of Fritigern's like 58 size bodyguard.
Victory will be ours.
And it has just taken away a lot of the challenge from this campaign. This will be turn 56 that we actually have won the campaign. And I mean really won it this time. So we're actually going to get the victory screen saying, well done, you've won the game. At turn 55. And so the problem with Rhovanion being simple, in my mind, is twofold. One, it's that they've got far too much access to cavalry bodyguards, which hinders the difficulty greatly. And secondly, it's that they've only got one enemy, and unfortunately, they're better than that enemy. Leaps and bounds better than that enemy. And I think all of those points combine to make the Rhovanion campaign a bit simple. But that's not the end of the world. You want your campaigns to have varying difficulties. So whilst this campaign may have been simple, perhaps the Mordor campaign or just one of the other campaigns, maybe one of those isn't simple. And so that's not a bad thing. That's just a reflective point. Rhovanion has been very easy. I haven't really felt a challenge. And this little dilly-dathering at the end, where I've had to be running around killing off this last runic army, that wasn't a challenge, that was just minor tedium, let's be honest. Once your army is big enough and you know you've won, and then like one of your provinces rebels, for example, that's not going to stop you winning the game. It's just a minor little inconsequential roadblock, but you've actually got to take the time to go through it. But yeah, so I think Rhovanion has been a touch simple. But other than that, the mod has been fantastic. There are a few things where I have felt like having followed having followed DCI for 8 years, I've seen the varying different types of units, and I think with any mod there are some variations in unit quality. I can't say particularly that I was blown away by the designs and the models of the Runic army, but by comparison the Erungalan army I think looks absolutely amazing. And I would, to be honest, I would have played as those, but I felt that Erungalan just fought against the Misty Mountains, and the Misty Mountains are basically unchanged from Third Age, so playing against them wouldn't have really shown off the mod's newest features. So I tried to avoid the Misty Mountains, either playing as them or against them. But so I think there are some points where the unit models in the mod aren't what you were hoping for, when you've seen the quality in other nations are fantastic. But then that's the chain with every mod. We're modders. We're not paid to do this. And modders come and go. So there may well have been a certain modder who had a vision and perhaps a higher degree of skill, and he created certain units, and then maybe he left, and then the others had to fight on. We got down to a second then, didn't we? And then we didn't win it. And I've just seen that all of our ground forces are running. This is perhaps why the counter thought we wouldn't win it. You can't lose now. They're right at the bloody end. Well, all of you charge into them, and let's send them back in. There's only 25 or 26 of them.
If we continue like
no,
this,
they're going to lose
we will
now.
smash the enemy.
Although our cavalry didn't charge in. But on the whole, no, I thoroughly enjoyed DCI. It's been a bit of a change going back to the old Third Age map, because obviously it is much smaller. And I do find it quite odd that despite it being the smaller map, there are still quite a few large regions. And I think the mod could definitely benefit from just adding 1 or 2 more regions. So keep the map size and keep the map design, but just break up a few of the larger regions, add a few more towns in. But then, of course, it's all for balancing, isn't it? The mod needs to be balanced. And as far as I can see, when we toggle Fog of War at the end here, that no one's really made any ground except for me. So I don't think anyone is winning out over anyone else or anything like that. So I think the balance seems to be quite good. But there we are. As we say, that is actually the end of our campaign. When he gets in that town, it should then trigger the victory cinematic.
My lord, our courage and honor have
Quest
conquered.
fulfilled. You have, through strength of arms, wise rule, and cunning diplomacy, managed to fulfill the quest that people have bled and fought for. Celebrations are held in countless places in honour of this accomplishment. That music is so loud. A glorious chapter in the War of the Last Lines, setting the future of Middle-earth. Would you like to continue playing? Well, that sound means that we won't be able to monetize this video, but that's all right. So there we are. Let's toggle the Fog of War and have a look then. I can show you the unit that I was talking about, because I sent some of them down here to help. No, that's Cafald. This one here. There you are. Highest Spearmen. So that's a unit that we very recently trained. We didn't get to see those in battle. We've got an absolute ton of generals, but Fritigan was rested and stayed in Mataram. Fritigan the Mighty, quite rightly. Now, the army that appeared, as I say, at turn 41 when I started recording all this. Oh, we're on 59. My army was over here. There were loads of reinforcements coming to join the army. I had a full banner army, and Rune had standing around here a half banner army. I had spies next to Garda and Kant, and I knew they had no other troops. They were well and truly defeated. And then Usumgalu was his name. He came with a full banner army and attacked Outagard. But then he immediately abandoned the siege and fled and followed east over here. And then through a series of annoying backwards and forwards fights, and bribery came into it. I forgot that bribery is in this game. I lost quite a few captains to bribery, which also just annoyed me more than anything else. We finally killed him. But then also it should be said that there was a unit in his army that crashed the game, and I don't know what it was. It was either the Kalinarthan Fjord, the Dunlending something they were called, or the Orc Looters. They were units we've never fought before. And when I fought him in battle, it crashed the game, and it crashed it about 3 times, which added to my annoyance as well, I have to say, because then I recorded 3 times me fighting this bugger, and every time it bloody crashed. So then I had to find a way to work around it, and I had to auto-resolve when we fought him, and it was a nightmare. It was just, how can things be dragged out in a way that is not fun, basically. That's no fault of the modders. That is just sort of the dangling at the end. Now, the one thing that I do think the mod possibly has, which I was a little disappointed to see, and I may be wrong, and I'd be welcome and love to be corrected, but from my understanding as a modder, I can't see it as any other way. I think Rune got quite a few scripted armies toward the end. So whilst I was busy dealing with all these guys, which was only a few turns, a full banner army came out of Rune again. And I managed to defeat that full banner army. And then by the time it was defeated, which was only 3 or 4 turns later, another full banner army came. And then also, when I besieged Khand, their garrison size doubled. There's almost certainly some scripted support going on there, which I really didn't like. I don't mind one last gasp army, which is what Divide and Conquer does, and that's the reason Divide and Conquer does it, because I don't mind one last gasp army. And so I permit it, or we allow it in DAC. Not I permit it personally, I don't have a dictatorship. But we use the last stand. And Third Age also had that same premise, and we've kept it in DAC and we use it. We think that's okay. It represents every last possible soul of the nation coming together, standing in one army and fighting you. But you know that when that army is dead, that nation is gone. Unless you've let them train some more units, they're gone. But Rune only had 2 regions. They are this far apart, and yet they managed to get like 2 full banner armies in about the space of 10 turns. And I just couldn't help but feel that that's because they were getting support. Also because they kept getting generals as well. And as far as I'm aware, you can't train generals in DCI Last Alliance. And unless they had a family tree that was particularly fertile, they were just definitely getting generals spawned in, is my gut instinct. And I was a bit disappointed with that because I was so close to the end, and it's just a minor road bump. Once you're at that point, they've lost. And if I may just defend DAC for a second, the last stand army is not really intended for you, the player. It's there because the AI is so garbage at defending itself, particularly in DAC where we have lots of factions, that you need to give them some sort of boost, some sort of support. But I was a bit disappointed in that. But other than that, I enjoyed my time with Rhovanion, save for the fact that I did feel it was a touch too simple. That's my only takeaway, really. The cavalry bodyguards for Rhovanion just made it too easy, really. At no point have we come across a challenge, and we're 59 turns and we've just won. And alright, I should have won, I should have really won a few more turns ago, but there was a few disruptions. So that's my time with Rhovanion. If we have a look around the world, these were the 2 rebel regions, Esgaroth and Dalathales. I had, in the last episode, I was talking at length because I was 45 turns in at that point when I sent my armies up here. And Khazad-dûm had not yet taken Dalathales or Esgaroth. And the garrison in these regions was about 3 or 4 men. 3 or 4 companies, sorry. And my thinking is very much that Khazad-dûm in this mod, as they did in Third Age, suffer massively by having a split realm. The AI just does not know how to use split realms, and so they just don't do anything. It took Khazad 45 turns to capture a rebel village outside their capital city that only had 3 companies in it. 45 turns, because the AI was so busy thinking about what's it going to do either over here with the Misty Mountains, and it's thinking about what's it doing here at Khazad-dûm, and it's thinking about what's it doing in the Blue Mountains. And I did talk in breve to succinctly discuss what I talked for about 20 minutes for. The problem, as I foresee it, is that when coming to create a Total War mod for Middle-earth, you need to make the decision, are we going to be completely lore-based, or are we going to adapt for the Total War setting? And having Khazad-dûm act as a very isolationist nation who sit in their regions and only really defend them works perfectly from a lore point of view, because that's what the dwarves would have done. But you can't really have one faction follow their lore basis and another faction not follow the lore basis, because then one faction is just going to suffer, and I think Khazad-dûm do that. I think it would help them massively if their realm was split. Or if they were divided into 1 or 2 other nations. Having them isolate and sit in their regions is fine, but then it means that they're a complete pushover if you ever fight them. But then the other thing about that, though, is there's very much a concept in modding, or not really a concept, but you can have a nation that is designed purely to be played by the human and not by the AI. And Khazad, in this instance, I would submit, is one such nation. If you play as them as a human player, you, of course, know exactly what you're going to do. You know where you're going to defend. You know how you're going to split your realm. For you, it's not a problem. And so this may be one of those instances where Khazad, as the AI, you just have to write them off. They're just going to sit and do nothing. So, all right, they've got Sityak and they've got Dalathales, but we're 59 turns in. They've taken 2 regions. I mean, that's nothing. As a human, 59 turns in, I've bloody won the game. So it shows you that the AI can't really deal with that split. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if the faction is designed for a human to play it. But that's merely a commentary on it. That's not affecting or changing my opinion. I still think DCI is fantastic, and you should definitely give it a go. It's really is a breath of fresh air. And you'll see down here, though, just totally tangential, changing the subject now completely. Minister Nor fell to the wild men of Enid Wythe in some bizarre circumstance, even though the rest of Enid Wythe's provinces is 4 meagre little regions over here in Enid Wythe itself. I don't know how they managed to get an army over there and do that, but they did. But as you can see from the rest of the world, Harad is something of a powerhouse, and the southern Númenórean kingdom is going down. I can't remember if the Men of the Mountains are at war with them or not. But you'll note that Mordor has got both Osgiliaths, and Mordor has got complete free reign in this area. They've moved all the way north to Brimfoldveg, and they might attack the elves, or they probably attack me now, to be honest, because they declared the invasion and then I took Thorenberg from them. Which incidentally has a little elf Entwife building, which I thought was quite cool. It doesn't really give anything, it's only a really little lore nod, but I thought that was pretty cool. But Harad and Mordor, I think, have absolutely got Gondor just bested. It's just a matter of time. But Harad, even though Harad has all these forces and quite a powerful sort of gathering, they also sent 2 armies north to try and take Rhovanost in the invasion. But then, of course, the Misty Mountains did, so I don't know where those armies have gone. They must have gone back south, but they were 2 full banner armies that Harad sent. But they don't seem to be crossing the river despite having all of these lands. They must be so wealthy. But I think Gondor is done for, and Enid Wythe is done for as well, because the elves are on an absolute mad one. Look at that. All the way down to the Gwathlo River and beyond. They're doing really well, but they've only got Imladris up on the other side. So I've enjoyed my time with DCI. I apologise it's been 2 months since we last played. I don't really have a reason for that other than, as you all know about me, once a campaign is won, or maybe not technically won, but maybe, well, the best terminology would say, maybe not de jure won, but de facto won, I completely lose interest. As soon as I know that I've won, that's it. I want to just end it and start again. I want to carry on playing, but I don't want to play as the nation where I've just got to go through the boring admin of actually winning. And that was very much the problem here. And the admin just kept getting more and more, and so the video quality wasn't very good. So I re-recorded it. But anyway, I think that can then conclude Rhovanion. I won't play DCI again for probably some time. I may play it again in the future, but it's certainly not going to be on the channel for a while. But on the channel, I am now going to record Anduin this week, and it is, disappointingly for many of you, I suppose, going to replace Ered Luin, and I, of course, will talk about that when the first Anduin episode comes up, which will be sometime this week. There'll be a lot of videos this week, I think, probably one every day, because I'm off work all week. Jess is not off work, so I'm at home alone for the whole week. So I plan to do a bulk record quite a lot of videos, because I don't really have anything else going on. So that's the plan. But that's going to conclude then Rhovanion. So we finally actually got to the end and gave it the ending that it deserved. I heavily recommend playing DCI if you are looking for something a bit different. I would say that overall I think it is slightly simpler for certain factions, but then other factions might be much harder. I can't comment on the mod as a whole, and DAC is absolutely piss easy, so I've got no claims in saying that it's bad that it's easy. It's not a bad thing, it's easy. But it's certainly Rhovanion. My review for Rhovanion would be it is a doddle. I haven't faced a challenge in the 59 turns we've played, and the little sort of upstarts at the end, if you will, were nothing more than roadblocks. They weren't challenging. It wasn't hard getting Rhovanost back, as you just saw. The Misty Mountains immediately dissipated their army that they had in here, and I was able to pick it off, and then the remainders, the last few army men that were alive were able to take the town. I, of course, at any point as well could have brought this army back, but I needed to keep it down here to hold this region from Mordor, so we got our 18 regions. We have 342 more turns to win, and we've won. So there we are. That was DCI. I do hope you've enjoyed the DCI videos. I hope you enjoyed this video. I apologise you didn't get to see the hour and a half worth of of time it took to get to here, but trust me, it's not a very good video. I wouldn't recommend watching it. But until we speak again, dear friends, Navair and Eden Pedamat Melonin. and farewell.